Well, hello there, friends. As I told you yesterday, today I will go to make a new video. Um, Last time it was all a bit chaotic, but I wrote myself a script, and to get to the new topic, I wanted to make it a bit more. How did I say this? It's more like an order this time. Like, I will not just randomly go off and talk about something totally different, which would make no sense. This time it's about BFA. And yes, let's get started. I will not cover Teldrassil, since I believe it has no further bearing on what happened after this expansion, since Blizzard seems to have it solved in Shadowlands. You know, with Tyrande becoming the Night Warrior and her talking to the Winter Queen, her conversation with the Loon. It seems like the Night Elves got the due, I think. So there's no need to bring Teldrassil into this now. Alright, yes, it starts with patch 8.1. You know, that was the first raid after Uldir. That was when Rastakhan died. And you see, the problem is Blizzard has used Horde cities for raids too many times. You know, Siege of Orgrimmar already was a bit over the top. A lot of important Horde characters died, like Nazgrim and Runtag and Garrosh. Even though that happened in Warlords of Draenor, but you know what I mean. He was used as the last raid boss. And he was pretty much the Horde leader of the whole Horde until the raid ended. And here I think the big problem is that if you do that too many times, it will make the experience for the Horde stale, especially when you consider that during the raid we go after Jaina, but she gets away and really takes no damage. She just succeeded in her goal of making the Alliance fleet escape. And then she teleports herself out of the fight at 5% of her life points, I think. And the Horde is left with a bad feeling because they just lost Rastakhan and the Zandalari fleet, who was blown up into pieces. And that was the way Blizzard intended to kick off the expansion, by striking a big loss on the Horde, which they didn't really recover from, since the Alliance fleet now had the upper hand. And Jakutshav, and as Matthias Shaw said, the Alliance was able to end the war in a matter of weeks. That was the start of the expansion, the first patch. And they just decided to not further elaborate on that, because the thing is, what came next is a bit tricky, because it was all about Azara in patch 8.2, where the Alliance and the Horde banded together to defeat her. And you see, for that story beat, you really didn't need the Horde. Neither Salisra nor Lorfima was really needed to see Azara defeated. Like, Jaina is so amazingly powerful. She could have soloed her way through the Eternal Palace. And that brings me to the next point, to patch 8.2, where the Naga attacked both fleets after they came crashing down because Azshara used the Tidestone of Golganath. And then both Alliance and Horde were forced to set their differences aside and work together, even though it makes no sense in my opinion, because the war is still going on. Sylvanas is still in charge of the Horde, and pretty much what Lorvamar and Selithra did there was treason, because they used the Alliance's help to get rid of Azshara, and they really had no authority to do that, because the plan was to lure the Alliance into a trap with the help of Ashwayne. And then we're at a stalemate, and Lorvamar and Jaina pretty much talk to each other like there's no big deal going on. They talk like friends, you know? They talk to each other like they know each other well. And here you see Blizzard is trying to bring the faction barrier down and give both sides the same content, unlike the story of what happened before patch 8.1, where both sides each got their own continent to explore and had little stories in each zone, which culminated in the big finale. With a Horde, you take the city back and help Rastakhan to defeat Zul and his traitors. And on the other side, you had the Alliance, who I think brought the Kultiran fleet back from being lost on the sea. I think that this was what a friend told me what the Alliance story was. And recovered Jaina from Thros, the Blighted Lands, who was banished there by her own mother. But she saw the error of her ways and then helps the Alliance players to bring Jaina back. Because in this game you really need Jaina for everything. Defeating strong enemies, teleportate your armies, and things such as that. Jaina is pretty much the walking Deus Ex Machina, who carried the entire Alliance campaign on her back. Yeah, that was patch 8.2. And then, in between the story, we had an interlude. The problem of the war was still around, and at some point it just needed to end, because if you want to fight N'Zoth, I don't know how to pronounce him in English, I'm sorry. To fight him, you need both factions working together. And on one side, we have Sarfang and his rebels, who took most of the Horde behind them and gathered the leaders who said that the war has gone far enough and needed to end. On the other side, we have Anduin and the Alliance, who said at the start of the expansion already that he never wanted this war, and put all the blame on Sylvanas. And that is just, you see, in my opinion, that is just stupid. Because, let's be honest here, the Alliance wanted this war as much as the Horde. The Alliance community always said they wanted to take back Lordaeron for the living. Like, there were several big AP plots in the past of getting that covered. The humans of Stormwind especially wanted to drive the Horde back from their former lands. Again, Greymane wanted to take revenge for Geneas, and all in all, the Alliance had a lot of grudges against the Horde since Mist of Pandaria. That has been long coming. So really Blizzard coming out and saying, yeah, we don't want the war, that is all on Sylvanas, let's put our differences aside. That's a big, massive lie. Blizzard has lied here. They never really took that to heart. Like, the truth is, all the Horde really did here wanted to make sure the Alliance can never be a threat again. Because we have seen in the past, with Varian, at the end of the Siege of Orgrimmar, he tried to bring the Horde to an end. And he only didn't do it because Anduin negotiated on his behalf. Yeah, but what is this interlude I was talking about? Well, we come to patch 8.2.5. It's literally the Siege of Orgrimmar reprisal. Like, both armies standing in front of Orgrimmar again. Sylvanas and her loyalists have gathered on top of the walls. And I really thought for a minute it would come to blows, that maybe or maybe not Sarfang would have died. But in the end he died anyway, so his Makora was pretty much pointless because he lost his life anyways. Like, the majority of the Horde still was on the side of Sylvanas and was willing to throw their life away for her. But then came the cinematic of the fight between Sarfang and Sylvanas. And you could kind of say Sarfang won in the end because he got what he wanted. He freed the Horde of the clutches of Sylvanas, and the new rebel-friendly government took over who made peace with the Alliance. And that was really the point where I once again ended my subscription, because I really don't want peace with the Alliance. Like, Blizzard promised we would get a conclusion, and in the end everything was set back to the aftermath of the Siege of Orgrimmar back in Mist of Pandaria. Pretty much everything was the same. The bad war chief was gone and a new government took over. Like, nothing much really changed here. Like, you could say the Horde Council is different from the war chief, but let's be honest here. If Blizzard wants another faction war, then they will bring the war chief back. That is pretty much set to happen. Because in the end of the day, the faction war really is the cornerstone of the whole plot, really. Like, it started with humans versus orcs in Warcraft 1. It continued that way in Warcraft 2. And the only time where that wasn't the center of the story was in Warcraft 3. But Blizzard has rekindled the faction war more so than so ever, and I don't know what to think about that. Like, what really matters when all the Horde gets at the end of the day is a lot of dead leaders and a lot of replacement characters who have really no background and the players can't root for, because their entire personality is centered about the fact that they want peace with the Alliance. Like, that is the only reason why Bane and Thrall are in charge, because they don't want war anymore. Yeah, and with that we come to the end of the expansion. The biggest patch of Battle for Azeroth, that was like to be having then Zoth be the final boss. He was introduced as this big ominous guy who pulls the strings behind the scenes. Like he was the last old god who wasn't defeated yet. Blizzard has built him up to be malicious and cunning. And you would think, with a big character such big as he is, it would take a lot of effort to see this last villain defeated for good. But no, it seems all we needed was Rathian getting Xalatath and stick it into N'Zoth in the final battle to open the way to his inner chamber, to give the heroes a chance of having or being able to have them fight him directly. Like the old god himself is pretty big. He looks pretty much a lot like he was on his Hearthstone art. He looks like a big mouse who was opened with a lot of eyes and tentacles. And I have to say, I really kind of disappointed about how short the fight was. Like, Magni fires a big Azerite laser beam on him, and that is all what it takes to see him destroyed. Like, once you fire that laser beam, the old god gets destroyed, blown up into a million pieces, and all of Ny'alotha as well gets destroyed. Except it seems like the final weapon we use against him is so strong it can destroy the entire Black Empire in a single shot. And really, I was really disappointed. You would think that N'Zoth would put up much of a bigger fight before he is gone. And in the end, it really put the stakes really low. Like you see, Shadowlands told us that the stakes are much higher and that all of reality is at threat here. Like, the jailer was such a big of a menace that he threatened the entire universe pretty much. And N'Zoth isn't really that. He's just another old god who we need to put down, just like we did to C'Thun and Yogg-Saron. Like, Yogg-Saron had an entire Titan facility where he corrupted everything and pulled all Titanic watchers on his side with his power. Like, personally, I think Yogg-Saron was much more of the threat than N'Zoth, because I just felt that he would make or enslave all of Northrend under his thumb. Like, he seems to be even more powerful than the Lich King, who was the main antagonist of Wrath the Lich King. But with N'Zoth, he doesn't really have that, you know? He's just there, and then and then he isn't anymore. Like, he gets easily blown away by the Azerite laser beam from the heart of Azeroth. And I really think what Blizzard was trying here was to show us that you can't save the world. Like, look, you can't save Azeroth without having working the alliance into all together. I think that was what they were going for here. Like they wanted to show you need both sides here to make sure Azeroth can survive against bigger threats. And yeah, that is how Battle for Azeroth ended here. On one side, you have the Alliance, who is now stronger than ever because you see the allied races, which they recruited over the course of the expansion, were pretty strong, especially the Dark Iron Dwarves and the Coterians. Like the Coterians have their big amazing fleet, which is pretty much unmatched now on the seas of Azeroth. And there you have the Dark Iron Dwarves, who have all these resources from the Blackrock Mountain, who pretty much have their own kingdom under the mountain there, and who provided a great assistance to the Alliance in the first patch, like I told you, during the battle for Dazar Alor. And that irks me greatly, like, the Magar don't have a home, the Vulpera don't have a home, the Zandalari Navy was blown up to pieces in the introduction of the expansion in the first patch. Like, the Horde lost the reason why they came to Zandala in the first place. Like, the army of the Zandalari is not that great. And the Zandalari really are at a bad spot right now. Like, they don't have that much to offer to the Horde. Like, the Alliance dunked on them pretty hard. The army is dispersed and the fleet is gone. And I feel like I wasted my time in Zandala because nothing much really came of it. Rastakhan died. And I can't say I liked Halanji that much. Like, she really didn't do much. Like, I don't know who the canon victory of Uldi will be. Like, it was the main. Let me tell you, Gahun was the main antagonist in the first half of the Horde experience during BFA. And we managed to defeat him. Like, you know, the High Mountain Tauren are not that much stronger in numbers, just as the Nightborn are. Both of them have suffered from a big civil war. And for me it feels a little bit unfair, like, Alliance get amazing races like the Void Elves and the Lightforce Draenei, both of whom are strong military assets. They are pretty much elite fighting forces, who you can use greatly in a war. And to me personally, it doesn't feel like the Horde allied races were much involved in the war efforts of the Horde during BFA, like they didn't really show up. Like, the majority of the fight was carried by the core Horde races. You see that if you play the faction assaults in the zones. I'm really not sure what Blizzard was trying to do here. Like, all of BFA, now that I have wrapped it up, feels like a big old beatdown, where the Horde didn't really gain anything. Like, the allies we have now are more of a burden than an assistance. And I'm really not sure where we are supposed to go here from now on. Like, my personal favorite candidates as new allied races would have been Mogu and Ogres. and we didn't get them, sadly. Mogul stay in Pandaria, ogres are neutral. Like, it would have felt so amazing if you go back to Draenor and would have make the ogres an appearance and get a nice little quest line where we recover the remainders of the Gorian Empire and have the remainders of the Ogre Empire join the Horde. Like, that would have been pretty neat, in my opinion. Like, we would have a big, strong race support the Horde, whose powers can really help in another faction war. And yeah, BFA all in all left a sour taste in my mouth. Like, I don't really think Blizzard really knew what they were doing here. Like, they had a lot of boxes to tip. Like, Horde had to lose the leaders. Alliance gets to claim victory. Like, let's be real here. All Alliance leaders look like they are pretty much invincible. None of them have ever died since Wars of the Lich King. Like, the last important Alliance character who died was Bolvar, and he came back as Lavaman. He returned in Shadowlands, and from what I've seen of Shadowlands, looked like he would from now on be on the side of Talia now. Like, you see, the Alliance don't really lose their characters or their leaders ever. They survive and become stronger. We see that with Velen, we see that with Jaina, we see that with Malfurion. All Horde leaders ever do is to be killed off, because the Alliance need another enemy that can be down. Which really was the conclusion of BFA. The Horde gets beat down and is left with nothing. Like, that really is my biggest gripe with the expansion. We really didn't gain anything from it. Sylvanas left, Galliwix left, Rastakhan was killed. It feels like it's Mist of Pandaria all over again, where Garrosh was ousted and Nazgûl was killed. Like, you see all these beloved characters of the Horde being killed or being forced to leave. And I don't really want that repeated. The Horde has lost so much. And you know me from Twitter and the forums. I have criticized these things a lot of times. It sometimes really feels like Blizzard has some sort of bias for the Alliance here. Who's never at fault, who always wins their battles, and who always triumphs over their enemies at the end of the day. Now, Anduin has joined Sylvanas, I think, in the Maw and helps her to recover the lost souls who were stolen by the jailer. I don't know what will come of that, but call me a simp if you want, but I really hope someday Sylvanas will return. I really hope Blizzard isn't finished with her yet. Like, it would be a total waste of a character to have her gone from the story. Yeah, but back to BFA. The next expansion will have the Alliance and the Horde at peace. Like, they told us that the Reliquary and the Explorers League will be working together here. So I'm not sure what will come of that. Blizzard has said they want peace, but I really don't know if they can deliver on that promise. Like, the Horde has a lot of grudges. Lordaeron still isn't recovered. The Alliance stands in South Shore. The Alliance stands in Silverpine. Like the Forsaken stopped having the control over the territory after BFA. And I really don't want to lose those lands. Like, I think the Forsaken deserve to have their land back. It's their land, in my opinion, by right. And I hope we get some sort of quest line where they get the city back, where the Blight is ousted, where the Forsaken can return to Lordaeron and have them recover their kingdom. Like, it wouldn't really be fair if the Forsaken are forced to stay in Orgrimmar. That would be hollow. Like, I really want to have the Horde win something here. I want to have the feeling that all the hard downs we went through were worth for something. That there's some conclusion to be had, which doesn't make the Horde story experience feel total hollow. Alright guys, I had a longer script prepared for this, but I don't want to bore you with my talking all the time. I really hope I could have managed to see you things from my perspective here, and that I covered all the faults which BFA left behind, like all the problems the expansion had, and for why I was thinking that the Horde experience of the story wasn't really worth much. I really talk bad about Blizzard a lot of times, but in the end of the day, all what I want here is to have the Horde become strong again. Like, that really is all what I want from the story. I just want that Blizzard stops to beat us down all the time. And I want that I can RP my faction without being forced to feel ashamed for it. Yeah. That is all for the video for today. I hope you liked it. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Click the bell. Give me a little follow on Twitter. I will link my Twitter account in the description below. And if you want to have more content from me here on YouTube, let me know in the comments. I will try to bring out a video each week at least. I do want to make longer videos, like I think half an hour is an appropriate time for a video who talks about all the lore beats. Like, I think if there's much content to cover, there's a lot of to talk about it. And I really hope you enjoyed this, and we will see us again soon. Up until the next video. Alright guys, thanks for watching. We see us. Goodbye.